Welcome to Bet the Edge. It's Thursday, November 17th. Thank you, everyone, watching our NBC Sports YouTube channel. Drew, we finally have a meaningful Thursday night NFL game, my man. We
Ooh.
talked about the Eagles and Texans. We talked about the Falcons and Panthers, but now we get the Titans and Packers. Should be a great game tonight. We also could talk about Baylor and TCU because TCU continues to do it, but the books are telling us that magical run is coming to an end. So we're going to dig deep dive into that and then NBA tonight. Hopefully you're not on the East Coast like myself. You're like Drew, and you can stay up and watch all the games starting at 10 p.m. and 10:30 Eastern tonight. But all that coming up more on Bet the Edge. Drew, how are we doing on this beautiful Thursday?
We're good, man. It's good to see you again. Hope the betting week is treating you well. Assume that your NBA continues to crush. Excited to see what you have in store for tonight's card because it's a tricky one. But I am finally, you're right. Finally, we have a meaningful Thursday night football game. The Titans have shocked the world. They shocked me. I thought this was a team that was kind of secretly tanking heading into the season because of the way that they treated their roster, trading AJ Brown away and not really addressing the wide receiver position other than a developmental choice in the draft and then beyond that just seeming like they're ready to move on from Ryan Tannehill. It didn't feel like a team that was really trying to compete, but all they do is win. Hat tip to Mike Vrabel. This guy, he comes up with ways to get the best out of his team, regardless of the state of the game, regardless of the quality of the opponent. He just delivers wins. And I think if the ball bounces a little differently in that Kansas City game on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago, this team is 6-2 and they're sitting at the top of the AFC, which is unfreaking believable. 7-2 sitting at the top of the AFC. So it's crazy how much they've overachieved so far this season. But guess what? The market doesn't care. They rate this team as still below average. They're 3-point dogs on the road to a Packers team that can barely manifest offense this season. Unbelievable. The disrespect for the Tennessee Titans continues. And, I can't say I strongly disagree with the side. But case to be made here. If Tennessee can get their run game going against the weak Green Bay Packers run defense, then this could be a very interesting contest.
That's exactly where I'm targeting this prop market. I will say I almost had to scream DJ Khaled when you said all the Titans do is win because it's been wild. 7-0 ATS in the last 7 games. I mean, they just continue to cover spreads. Then you look at the Packers, 0-5 ATS in their last 5 as a favorite. And Packers getting all the money. You can see on the chart, 73% of that handle at PointsBet. So, everyone saw Christian Watson, a.k.a. Randy Moss, last week, and they were like, yeah, the Packers finally figured it out offensively. Aaron Rodgers is good now. I don't know if I'm willing to believe in that. And when like you said, the running backs against the Packers have just destroyed them. I mean, 6 of the last 7 guys have had at least 70 yards on 4.8 yards per carry or higher. Tony Pollard, 115. Jamal Williams, 81. Singletary, 67. Brian Robinson, 73. Breece Hall, 116. You just keep going down the list, and these guys have shredded them. And Derrick Henry faces the most 8-man defender boxes. 38% of the times he runs has an 8-man box, and he doesn't care. He still gets it done. I have him over 98.5 rushing yards, Nicholas. I see you in the chat here. It's up to 100.5, 99.5. Everyone was on his over last week, and it was 106.5 when it opened. He didn't come close to it, but that was his first under in 5 games.
Yeah.
I like this game for him. Are you with me on Derrick Henry?
Yeah, and I think you need to have a little bit of context because he was facing one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. On top of the fact that it did seem like with the short week, or not a short week necessarily, but with a week where he didn't get a ton of practice, where they're trying to take a little bit of the save a little bit of his juice for later in the season. Like they didn't really utilize him as much the last 2 weeks as you would have expected. I think that does change here in this spot. I think a lot of it was kind of keeping him bottled, knowing that they were going to need him for this short week and going up against a weak rush defense. I mean, the Packers are going to be without Devondre Campbell. He matters. He is their best tackler by far. And if this, if you have Derrick Henry running amok in the second level against sort of the later units that Green Bay likes to play defense with, then he's going to have some pop plays in this one. And I think realistically expecting him to get into the 110, 120 range, kind of, sort of 2 or 3 plays that go for over 30 yards, I think is not unexpected in this one. So this could be, there's going to be plenty of, 2 yards in a cloud of dust for Derrick Henry here. They not every run is amazing. Obviously, they give him a lot of volume, but I would expect him to get about 25 touches in this game, and somewhere in the 115 to 120 range for yardage would be my median expectation. So we're with you 100% on Derrick Henry.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because you were hot on Dameon Pierce the week before that, the running back situation. We had some good running backs, but of course, Tyler Algier let us down. I think Henry is much more trustworthy running back, especially on a short week. 98% of the money is on Derrick Henry's over at MGM, of course, naturally. I mean, I don't know who really wants to throw money on the under, but then also bounce back spot for the Titans in a sense. In 2020, they lost to the Packers 40-14. Teams remember games like that. They want to come back and make a difference. A lot of the same guys from that Titans team are still here. The coaching staff's still here. So I do like the Titans plus 3.5 in this game if you can get it. Don't know if I'll go to the window with it because I like Henry tonight, but do you have an opinion on the total at all? I feel like everyone thinks the Packers offense is back, but this is Thursday night offense. The total's at 41, and the under's on primetime this year at 19-11 to the under.
Yeah, you won't catch me betting an under in this game. In part because of what we were kind of just talking about the Titans offense, expecting them to find a little bit of success on the ground here. I would expect that the Packers offense finds a little bit of success through the air. And that is because the Titans are dealing with some meaningful injuries here. I know that kind of their most important piece, at least in my mind, is Jeffrey Simmons, and he's questionable. He has been trending not to play. And if he is out, then that makes me like the over all that much more. But there are other key pieces missing as well. You're not going to have Bud Dupree available in this one. They just put Caleb Farley on IR. This Tennessee Titans defense is leaking oil big time in terms of just healthy bodies. And that's not good considering Green Bay seems to have maybe snapped out of their offensive funk after what we saw last week against the Cowboys. Now you can kind of say, hey, look, they caught a couple of, explosive plays. Finally, they were way overdue to have some explosive plays. We all know this, but and that's not necessarily sustainable. But at the same time, if Rodgers is bought in now to developing some of the younger players on this roster and in the pass catching unit, then you could have Green Bay being a pretty decent bet on team, bet on offense. As we come down the home stretch here. So this is an overlook for me. And I make fair here 43. So a decent amount of an edge there for me on the over.
Yeah, total agreements here. You know me, I play the unders almost every single Thursday, Sunday night, Monday night football game, and confidently at that. But this is one of the games where, similar to the Saints and Cardinals a few weeks ago, I just was not feeling the under. I couldn't really get behind it. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. I mean, I had a couple texts last night. Someone texted me at 1 a.m. Eastern time, said Aaron Rodgers under 36.5 longest completion. Like you would have had me every single week, but not anymore. Like Aaron Rodgers wants to figure it out. He wants to go deep. And this is actually the first time all season the Packers have had back-to-back home games within 2 weeks, because they were supposed to have it. Technically, it was a 3-game home stretch because of their home team in London against the Giants, but they went from New England to London, or they went from Green Bay to London, back to Green Bay. So being at home on a Sunday, then having a short week, that is a positive for the Packers. But playing on Thursday night as football, as we know, is not a positive for anybody usually. So let's get into college football, because we got some great games to talk about. If you want more betting and DFS fantasy advice tonight, though, make sure you tune in to NBC Sports YouTube channel. Myself, Lawrence Jackson, and Cal Dvorchak will be answering everyone's questions between the Titans and Packers. Again, it's DFS and betting and fantasy. So if you got your lineup questions, get them in, because we take about 50 to 70 questions a night, and it's honestly really fun on Thursday night football. So, I mean, everyone, you don't know who you're going to play on Sundays, my man. And when you got Lawrence and Kyle, they can help you out with that. Right now, Lawrence has been helping me a lot in my fantasy league. I'm in a $200 fantasy league. I lost 3 starters between weeks 1 and 2, Drew, to injuries. Dak, Eli Mitchell, Cam Akers. I started out 1-6, and I'm now 3-6, looking at a 4-6 week. So you know what? We're reeling. And if you're in the same boat, come join us tonight, baby, because we're trying to win. So let's talk a little TCU. Let's talk a little Baylor. Horned Frogs laying 2.5, going to Baylor. We talked about taking Texas last week. It was my best bet. They let me down. But what I really noticed was, because I was talking to our producer Adam a couple days ago, and I said TCU to make the playoffs is plus 230 on some books. Tennessee to make the playoffs is minus 350. They are telling you TCU is going to lose, but they continue to be a favorite here. So, I mean, what are you looking at? Are any of your sharp friends playing a side, or do you have a lean on the side? This is a tough one, man.
Yeah, I think that the fact that this is stuck at 2.5 and hasn't moved to 3 is telling you all you need to know about this game, and that sort of there is resistance at that price point. There is support here for Baylor to win outright. Baylor is a team that I've had a really tough time getting a feel for and a gauge on this season. I thought they were a lot better than they were at times, and then other times I've been dying to fade them, and they have kind of come through with impressive performances. So Baylor Bears and I have been on the wrong page for most of the season, so it's tough for me to say, hey, this is the spot, fade TCU, Baylor gets it done. TCU being 10-0 and punching their ticket to the Big 12 title game is impressive, but I agree with sort of the market's consensus that Tennessee has already punched their ticket to the Final Four. I think there will be 2 teams represented from the SEC. The only thing that really throws a wrinkle in Tennessee's case isn't even what they do, because I think they win their next 2 games pretty comfortably. I think it's much more what happens with Georgia in the SEC title game. If they lose to like LSU or something, then the committee's going to be like, we got to put LSU and Georgia in. Tennessee now all of a sudden on the outside looking in, even though they beat LSU head to head. So that's sort of the black swan for Tennessee, as far as I can tell you. But ultimately, I think the Big 12 is going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to seeding the Final Four.
Yeah, that's a great point too about LSU, because they've been really just making a run like the past 5, 6, 7 weeks, and you've watched from week 1 to week 10, week 11, and I think LSU is arguably the most changed team, has come the longest way this season. So that's going to be an interesting note worth watching, what happens with that title game. I will make a note that I love Baylor, and you know this, Drew. Like Baylor basketball last 2 years, automatic for me. Baylor football, like 80% automatic for me. But I do know that Baylor as an underdog against TCU has been bad. 1-5 on the money line historically, 2-4 ATS. Baylor has functioned very well as an underdog this year, a 3-1 ATS money line and 3-1 to the over. And what I said last week about Max Duggan and his knee, he didn't look that great. I know he looked better than Quinn Ewers. Almost anybody could have looked better than Quinn Ewers last week. But I like Baylor's defense. I think they're going to keep this close. So once again, I'll probably be throwing some lunch money on that Baylor money line, because like I said, the books are just telling you that Baylor or the TCU is not going to make the postseason. So they got to lose. And someone who's lost on them 2 out of the last 3 weeks, I might as well keep shooting my shot, Drew.
I guess let me ask you a question. Like, kind of surprised at their support for Baylor after how bad they looked last week, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I really thought this could have gotten across. I was waiting. I was hoping. I thought this was going to cross 3. At which point, play Baylor and just hope for a good game. But yeah, I mean, at home they lose 31-3 last week. Not even really competitive in that game. I don't know. I'm surprised that there's as much support as there is for Baylor. There may be a little bit of somebody is out there just martingaling betting against the Bears. I mean, betting against the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I think matchup wise, that game for Baylor was so tough against Kansas State. Like those teams, Kansas State, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, like 3 very comparable teams matching up offensively and defensively. So I'm a huge Wildcat supporter. I didn't like Adrian Martinez, but the way he's been playing this year has talked me into Kansas State. So, I'm a fan of the bounce back. Today's a bounce back day for me, Drew. So I will buy into Baylor's bounce back at home, another team that's playing 2 straight games at home. Briefly, let's touch on USC and UCLA, because I won't be playing a side, because I have UCLA team total over 8.5 wins. They have 8. Ooh. They just lost last week to Arizona. So now I need a win here or a win next week. So I'm really stressing over UCLA. But what I will note is the total in this game, because the total has hit over 4 straight meetings. We had 265s, a 66, a 66 and a half. Now the market has corrected itself to 76. That is a huge jump on the total. So, I mean, I'm looking at the under. What do you want in this game?
So the side in the total here tells me you're probably going to get a note at some point this week that Mario Williams is going to go for USC. I can't imagine that this is that much support for an over and a USC being 2.5-point favorites in the spot if he is not available. But maybe that still remains to be seen. UCLA, I really hope to get that win for you, man. I mean, I'm a UCLA guy. Not interested whatsoever in seeing the Trojans somehow backdoor their way into a Final Four spot here. It's been I think it's been a good season overall for UCLA in terms of the growth you're seeing with that team. The letdown last week against Arizona, and not except for that, obviously. But maybe a little bit of a look ahead spot, maybe kids thinking a little bit about this particular matchup and what it means in terms of their season and just the success of the program. So I'm willing to give them a bit of a pass here. This is this is a fun one to look for Bruins if it goes back to 3. Otherwise, I think you're probably looking for an in-game spot, because when a total is 76 in a college football game of this sort of spirit environment, it's not going to be one-way traffic. There's going to be some runs. You're going to get both of these teams could realistically score 3 times in a row, which means big swings in the live betting market. So if I'm not going to get 3 with UCLA before kickoff, then I'm going to wait and try to find a spot in game where they are down 1 or 2 scores and see if I can support a comeback, because I don't think this one's going to be decided until we get to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game reminds me a little bit, the total at least reminds me a little bit of Wake Forest and North Carolina last week, a game where you could see both offenses exploding. You can get live betting value at 7 to 10 on either team throughout the game. Earlier in the season, App State, North Carolina was another example of a team with 2 teams with a very, very high total. They just had a shootout, and you saw 2 to 3 touchdowns scored back-to-back on drives, like you just said, Drew. And I actually live bet App State at that game, plus 830 on the money line. And they scored 31 points or something like that in the fourth quarter. Not saying anyone's going to score 30 points in the fourth quarter of this game, but I wouldn't put it out of question between UCLA and USC. Both teams do not have much of a defense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And USC, if they want to make the playoffs, they have to not only beat UCLA this week, but also have to beat Notre Dame the following. So look ahead spot for them. I love how you said UCLA was looking ahead to USC and dropped that Arizona game. It's all about these 18 to 22-year-olds.
One of the things that might surprise people, UCLA actually has the better offense in this game.
I agree. I mean, USC was amazing for the first 4 to 5 weeks. They've reverted back to like a great offense, but not anything that they were like in the first month of the season. I
actually have UCLA rated right now as the 3rd best offense in the country, which is unbelievable. USC I have as 7th. Oregon I have 4th. So three Pac-12 offenses in the top 10 right now as currently constituted. And Oregon, USC, UCLA, like the margin of difference between those teams in terms of rating is negligible. So again, if you can get +3 with UCLA, I think that's the bet.
Can I ask you who's number 1 on that list offensively?
Tennessee.
Yeah, I didn't want to assume. They say about assuming, but that was a safe assumption.
Yeah.
All right, so I like that. Let's hope Tennessee gets in, man, for the sake of overs.
Oh, I know.
All right, so NBA is up next. Before we do that, make sure you guys go ahead and download the Rotoworld app. Get all your breaking news for all the players all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on the roster. Get all the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered straight to your phone. It's available in every app store today. And when we go live on shows like this, our primetime shows, Saturday College Football, or the Matthew Berry shows, you get that sent directly to your phone. Let us know that you're live. So make sure you guys go get the Rotoworld app. Let's talk about that late night we're going to be having here, because I'm going to take my nap during the day so I could stay up till 2 a.m. watching Nets and Blazers, Spurs and Kings, Pistons and Clippers. Drew, where do you want to go first in the NBA?
Well, we got to start with the hottest team in the NBA. And that's the Kangs.
I
I know you
knew
saw
it.
them. I know you saw them
Yeah.
hit. I know you saw them light the beam the
Going
other night after
down.
another impressive win. They're an interesting story for a lot of reasons. They started very, very slow. I remember a lot of people being like, man, why did I have any, expectation that these guys were going to be anything other than the same old Kangs? And then they have completely turned it around. They are getting some of the most impressive offensive performances in the league from their young core of players. And Mike Brown is so far he is masterfully maneuvering rotations and roles and responsibilities in a way that is very exciting to see. Now, they are coming off of a very, very emotional game because it was like the first time they were on TNT in something like 10 years. That's just approximate. I'm not exactly sure, but they got a TNT game. They got to win in impressive fashion over Kevin Durant and company on Tuesday. So, maybe a little bit tough for them to kind of replicate that energy. So this is a game where I'm going to be largely looking at trying to capture some value in game. But the Kangs, in my opinion, I have as a class above San Antonio. Now they're 7-point favorites, so it's not like the market isn't aware of this, but a game where San Antonio is kind of getting it done with smoke and mirrors in a lot of ways, in my opinion. And I think realistically, Kangs are going to be able to put together a run in this one at some point and likely cover this number. So not a huge edge for me, but just excited about what they're doing in Sacramento right now.
Yeah, I watched that Spurs game, the last outing against the Blazers, and that was a cover that I didn't feel like the Spurs really deserved. It was 7.5, and they lost by 7. But the NBA, that's really how it is sometimes. But both these teams are great against the spread teams this season. Spurs are 9-6, Kings 10-3, Kings 5-0 in the last 5. You see the Spurs 4-1 in their last 5. So these are two very profitable teams so far this season. What I will note though is the over in this game. Sky high, 236, 237, whatever you can get. I think when the total's that high, I'm automatically looking at player props, right? Now,
Sure.
I did take the L on. Well, I'll make this note first. These are two of the top 3 pace teams in the NBA. The Spurs are number 1 in pace. The Blazers are number 3 in pace. So you should be looking at overs on the player prop market. And I did lose on Damian Lillard the other day. He was my best bet at over 25.5 points against the Spurs. He finished with 22 points and 11 assists. I'm looking to come back on him tonight against the Nets. I'm looking to come back on De'Aaron Fox in this Kings game because of what Damian Lillard was about, what he did against them. So Fox right now sitting at 24.5 points, juice to the over I'm seeing. And then his 31.5 points and assist line is still out there. Like I said, Lillard had 22 points and 11 assists. That's 33 on the Spurs. Thinking De'Aaron Fox, who only played 24 minutes against the Nets, is going to be pretty well rested, ready to go tonight. So I like De'Aaron Fox in that game, over 24.5 points, over 31.5 points assists. And I like my guy Dame Dalla against the Nets tonight. I think he's going to have a big showing. I don't think that Nets defense is good, Drew. We see Brooklyn 2-point dogs at Portland. Portland's another team that's been very, very good against the spread this year, 10-3-1, 4-1 the last 5. What are you doing in this game?
I am efforting every power of my being to try to figure out if Yusuf Nurkic is playing. Nurkic moves this particular spread more than anyone would probably believe because his particular matchup head-to-head against the bigs for Brooklyn is in every category. Nurkic. So their ability to kind of just withstand a bad shooting night and get offensive rebounds and continue, and just really just in general, just have a solid offensive performance entirely, in my opinion, depends on his availability. And on the other side of the court, he's a huge component to what they want to do as plan A defensively. So if we get word that Nurkic is in, I'm firing Blazers. And if Nurkic is out, then this is a pass. If Nurkic is out and the line moves to 4, I think there's still value there. I think his impact is that significant for this particular matchup. Again, the total doesn't really move either way for me, him in or out, because his impact is so significant in both offensive and defensive side of the ball in this particular contest, as far as I can tell you.
Yeah, I'll be looking directly at Nicholas Claxton props. If Nurkic is out in this game, he'll probably be a good points or rebounds bet in that one. Jeremy Grant for the Blazers, another guy I'm targeting if Nurkic is out. He's been playing really well lately. I could see him being able to score and rebound. But Drew, you hit the nail on the head. Nurkic is going to bully everybody on that Nets roster. It's a big deal if he's in. And, if this game starts about 10 o'clock, I believe. Yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern. So you may have to wait until 9:30 to be placing a wager on this game. But as we know in the NBA, that's never a bad idea to wait to place your bet. Last game to hit on briefly, probably the most unappealing game, to be honest, the Pistons and Clippers. Clippers laying 9 points. This is the first of a 6-game road trip for the Detroit Pistons. So it could be a spot where they come out and they want to be aggressive and set the tone for this trip. But we do know that the Detroit Pistons are going to be a fade over the next 2 weeks, more than likely. So are you going to start that fade tonight, or are you going to wait and see?
This is so hard because I do not understand what the Clippers are. I don't get it at all. I don't get the vision. I don't really know exactly who cares about playing and what they ultimately want to do. I don't know why the market rates them as still, kind of a market favorite for the Western Conference. Like, I'm not seeing it at all so far with these guys. And the idea that Kawhi Leonard is going to come riding to the rescue at some point. All right. Fine. Best of luck to them. People who believe that. Paul George is questionable in this contest. Him potentially being out makes this a really unappealing game. You mentioned that the Pistons are a fade, and Pistons. It was going to be a weird season for them regardless, because they got the number one overall two years ago in Cade Cunningham, and they kind of need to show growth to kind of keep everybody employed and keep the job going. But at the same time, the franchise would be better off losing. They invested in some free agents that are not working, and Detroit just in general looks like a broken team. Cade Cunningham now out with left shin, and Isaiah Stewart out as well matters. He's been pretty, he's had some flashes, and he's out with a toe. So I want to play. I want to take the points with the Pistons here, but I need kind of confirmation that Paul George isn't going to be available, because the Clippers have been firing a lot of bullets of late to try to stay around 500. And this is the kind of game where I could see them relinquish a decent lead and then just kind of try to flip the switch in the fourth quarter, close the gap, and get out with an ugly win. I don't think this is a game where the Clippers are really trying to come in and flex and win with margin. So Pistons or pass here, and boy, does that feel not great considering who the Pistons are going to be trotting out there.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I mean, I don't love it. I'd prefer to see who's in and out this game. We do know that if your injury synopsis comes true in this game with Paul George being out, this line's probably coming down to 6.5, I'd say.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I think the market is expecting him to go. I'll just say that. Like, I think the reason you would see this isn't, how sometimes bookmakers don't, guys 50-50, and they'll just kind of set a number in the middle and like just let people figure it out. And it's just a little move either way. This feels more like an 80-20. They're expecting him to go. So I would expect a pretty big move if he ultimately ends up sitting.
All right. That's how you break down that game for sure. There's nothing that I entirely love in that one. I was looking at a Jaden Ivey fade, but I need to know Paul George is in before I take an under 17.5 points on him without my boy Cade Cunningham in. Cade, man, I don't know if that shin injury is serious, but he didn't look good in Boston, and since then he hasn't played. So hopefully quick recoveries to them. And also want to give my thoughts and prayers to the University of Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
They did cancel this game this weekend. Very heartbreaking stuff from them. Hopefully everybody stays safe. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this show. Make sure you guys check us out tonight on the primetime show, 7 to 8 Eastern on the NBC Sports YouTube channel, NFL on NBC actually. And then we'll be live Saturday for college football too. Drew is back tomorrow. Make sure you follow my guy on Twitter at @thewell_capper. I am V Money Sports. Make sure you go to NBC Sports Edge, live, subscribe, and rate our podcast and show. We appreciate you guys. Have a good Thursday.